Hi, my name is Stephen Sanders.
And I'm Missy Jensen, and we both serve here as pastors at Oak Hill United Methodist Church. Pastor Stephen, would you share with us what's going on in the denomination?
Certainly. For the last 50 years, there has been controversy in the United Methodist Church around questions of human sexuality, specifically around two questions. Number one, can people who are part of the LGBT community be ordained as clergy in the United Methodist Church? Currently, they cannot. And number two, can pastors like Reverend Missy and me officiate at same-sex weddings? Currently, we may not without being removed from ministry and losing any compensation for at least a year. In May, a new denomination was formed called the Global Methodist Church. And what is happening is that some churches, particularly in the southern part of the United States, have begun to disaffiliate, leave the United Methodist Church, and join the Global Methodist Church. These more conservative congregations are leaving because they're concerned that the United Methodist Church may change its current stance on questions of human sexuality, and they don't feel that they can be part of a denomination that takes a stance other than what the current United Methodist policy is.
So have you heard of any churches in our area that are leaving the denomination?
I know of 3 congregations in the Austin area that are going through the disaffiliation process. Driftwood, Dripping Springs, and Bethany United Methodist Church are all going through the discernment process about leaving the denomination.
So if they vote to leave, when will that take place?
Well, so they're going through an official discernment process right now. And if the congregation votes by a 2/3 margin to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church, that decision will need to be affirmed by what is called the Rio, Texas Annual Conference. And there will be a special meeting of the annual conference on May 6th to affirm and allow those congregations to leave the United Methodist Church and take their property with them.
So what does that mean for the United Methodist Church going forward?
What does it mean for the United Methodist Church going forward? Here's the truth. We don't know, and no one knows. I suspect that as more conservative congregations leave the United Methodist Church, there will be a change within the United Methodist Church, both in its theology and teachings and in some of the ways that the denomination is structured. I suspect that there will be changes in the United Methodist position on questions of human sexuality, although I don't know what those changes will be. And as many congregations and clergy leave the United Methodist Church, the denomination is going to have to do some restructuring, including looking at the finances in how ministry is carried out in the larger world. We're not going to know what those changes are until they are made by what's called General Conference, the main legislative body for the United Methodist Church, and they don't meet until 2024.
So let's bring this down to a local level. What does that mean for us at Oak Hill United Methodist Church?
At one level, absolutely nothing. This church does not need to be engaged in questions of disaffiliating. The only question before local congregations is whether they want to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church. And our church council talked about that in January. The church council is our official leadership body within the church. And our church council had a conversation and said that we don't believe that God is calling us to leave the United Methodist Church. So in order for that to happen, no decision is necessary, no vote is necessary on behalf of the congregation. So we don't have to do anything. At another level, though, this issue affects us deeply as a congregation. Before you, Ryan, and I were appointed as clergy here, this congregation went through some real controversy around questions of human sexuality. And I have visited with people from this congregation who have people, family and friends who are part of the LGBT community, and they deeply want those people to feel welcomed within this congregation. I have visited with people who left this church and were deeply hurt. I have also visited with people who have a much more traditional understanding of questions of human sexuality, and all of those people want for Oak Hill to be their church home. I think we have to be really intentional about living as a community where all of God's children are welcome and being able to live with different perspectives within this community.
So what should we be doing in the meantime?
I think in the meantime, Missy, we as a congregation need to do two things. Number one is we need to focus on living as the Christ-like community God has called us to be. I know that there are different perspectives in this congregation. My expectation as your pastor is that we will treat everyone in this community with dignity and love and respect, that we will allow people to have different perspectives, and we will work on living together as a community of love and faith, as a Christ-like community. And that we're going to focus on doing the things that we are called to do as a church, teaching kids the stories of Jesus, helping people clean up after the storms that have racked Austin, being with people when life gets challenging, and helping people grow in their faith and living as a light of Christ in this world. The second thing, though, I think we need to focus on doing as a congregation is having compassion for those other churches that are going through the disaffiliation process right now. Congregations are going through gut-wrenching decisions, and people are going to get hurt along the way. Anytime you take a vote in a church on a divisive issue, someone is going to get hurt. And in these congregations that are considering leaving, at least a third of the people in those congregations are going to find themselves without a church home. And I think we as a congregation need to have compassion on those people and those churches and never demonize them. And we as a church have to find ways to reach out to people who have lost their church homes.
Is there anything else we need to know?
Not that I know of at this point. There will be a vote on May 6th by the Rio, Texas Annual Conference to approve churches that are wanting to disaffiliate and approve that decision. And I don't see a need, unless something gets really weird, for us to have any sort of update until after May 6th. After then, I think we come back and share any new information with the congregation. Until then, I invite people to visit with you or Ryan or me with any of their questions, and we will answer them as best we can.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to explain to us what's going on. And my prayers join yours, and we pray that this community can be the loving, Christ-like example in our greater Oak Hill community.